Okay, so imagine your life is just completely falling apart. You're broke, your career's a mess, and you feel like you're at war with the entire world, and especially yourself. Well, this was the reality for a man named Gary. But what happened to him next? Well, it wasn't just a change of luck. It was something that would challenge the very idea of reality as we know it.
I was at war with myself, and I was losing. That's a direct quote from Gary, and man, does it hit home. I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling, right? That sense of inner conflict, of struggle, that feeling of just not being enough. This was his rock bottom.
So, what did that war with himself actually look like? I mean, let's get into the specifics of what brought him to this absolute breaking point. I mean, just think about this perfect storm of problems. He's still trying to recover from a bankruptcy, his new career as a stock trader, totally tanking. And to top it all off, he's in the middle of suing a former friend. It wasn't just one thing. His whole life had become a battlefield of conflict. And then, he just hits a wall. And this one thought crystallizes in his mind. There has got to be a better way. And this is so important. It wasn't some miracle from the outside. It was a choice, a conscious decision he made, right then and there. He dropped the lawsuit and started actively trying to practice forgiveness in his life.
And it's right after he makes this huge internal shift, that's when things get, well, unbelievable. Seriously, one day, he's meditating in his quiet home in Maine, he opens his eyes and sees something that just completely defies all logic.
Okay, so get this. He wasn't alone. There was a man and a woman just sitting on his couch. And here's the really weird part. They weren't glowing angels or anything like that. They looked totally normal. Contemporary clothes, just sitting there like they'd been invited. The sheer normality of it is what made the whole thing so incredibly bizarre.
Can you just imagine the silence in that room? Gary's probably just frozen, trying to process what he's seeing. And then the woman speaks. And her opening line is, wow, it's not hello, it's not don't be afraid, it's that. I mean, what an introduction. The woman, who we learn is named Persa, and her companion, Ardan, just dropped this metaphysical bomb right out of the gate.
And they make it super clear right away they are not there to hold his hand. They told him they were messengers for a consciousness they just called J, their name for Jesus, to kind of separate the teacher from all the religious baggage. And their whole purpose was to be blunt, to challenge him, not to make him feel all warm and fuzzy.
Okay, so this brings us to the first huge pillar of their teaching, and it's a really radical idea that flies in the face of one of the most fundamental beliefs in, Western culture.
So to explain their point, they compare two really well-known stories. On one hand, you've got the Genesis story, which, you have to admit, kind of paints a picture of a God who sets up his kids to fail and then punishes them for it. But they say, no, that's not it. The real story, the true metaphor, is the prodigal son. In that one, we weren't punished or kicked out. We just foolishly chose to leave. And our source is just waiting, with open arms, to welcome us back with nothing but love.
So this is the key, right? Their whole definition of God. It's not some conflicted, human-like personality. It's just perfect love. A being that by its very nature is totally incapable of creating a world filled with conflict and scarcity and death. As they so bluntly put it, God is not an idiot.
Which, of course, leads to the obvious next question, right? If God, this being of perfect love, didn't create this, often painful world, then who did? Where did it come from? And their answer is really the heart of their whole message. The universe, this reality we experience, they say it isn't an external reality at all. It's a dream, a projection coming from a single collective mind that just thinks it left home. I mean, this flips everything upside down. We aren't in the world is in our mind.
Okay, so if the world is a dream, what does that mean for someone like Jesus? Let's dive into what they call the unofficial version.
So Ardan and Persa lay out this version of Jay that's totally stripped of all the religious dogma we're used to. They say he was often misquoted, that the Gospels are kind of like movies based on a true story, not totally accurate. They insist he never, ever intended to start a religion. And this is a big one. He didn't teach that he died for our sins. Instead, he taught us to forgive a mistaken world, not to ask for forgiveness for sins against a punishing God.
Yeah, this next quote really just hammers their point home. For them, organized religions just became another part of the world's illusion, Another layer of complexity that gets in the way of the really simple path of forgiveness he was actually trying to teach.
Okay, so if this is all a dream, the way out isn't about fixing the dream world, right? It's about changing your mind so you can wake up. And they explain this journey home happens in a few distinct stages or attitudes of learning.
So the first stage is dualism, and this is pretty much the default setting for most of us. It's the belief in a universe that's split right down the middle. It's subject and object, me and you, good and evil. God is out there somewhere separate from us. And God seems conflicted, sometimes loving, sometimes wrathful. It's a worldview defined by separation and conflict.
The next step on the path is what they call semidualism. Think of it as a kinder, gentler dualism. This is the point where your mind starts to entertain a really powerful idea. What if God is only love? The second you truly accept that, poof, the hateful, vengeful side of God just disappears. And when that happens, the fear of God starts to fade away. This is the door opening.
Ultimately, they frame this whole journey as a kind of classroom. Our life here isn't just a bunch of random stuff happening. It's a curriculum. It's a process of correcting our thoughts, of unlearning the world's fear-based thought system and replacing it with a thought system based on forgiveness and love. And really, this all boils down to one fundamental choice. A choice between two completely different ways of understanding what our existence is even about. So let's put it side by side. On one side, you have our normal perception. Life is real. God is complicated, both wrathful and loving. You are a body, and your main goal is to try and fix this broken world. But on the other side, you have the visitor's radical correction. Life is a dream. God is only perfect love. You aren't a body, you are a mind. And the goal isn't to fix the dream, it's to forgive it, so that you can finally wake up. And so, in the end, Gary's absolutely wild story leaves us with this really profound choice to consider. Is this world, this life, is it just a tale told by an idiot? Like Shakespeare said, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Or could it be something else entirely? Could it be a classroom designed to help us remember who we truly are by learning to forgive a world that was never really there to begin with?